All right, we're gonna start this off with 4 exercises, a strengthening exercise for both biceps and triceps, and a lengthening exercise for the 2 muscle groups as well. No nonsense, we're gonna get right into this. For our first exercise, we're working on the biceps. There's just 2 of them, so they're a little bit weaker. You're gonna want a moderate load on your dumbbell, not light, not heavy, something medium. We're gonna do bicep curls with just a little bit of shoulder flexion. Shoulder flexion is moving them out in front, hands kind of point out to the ground below you, palms up, and we're doing bicep curls. We're going to focus on that eccentric or the lengthening, and it's gonna be slow and steady for the agonizing fatigue. So we're going much slower down than we are coming up. Let's go ahead and begin if you haven't already. We're essentially going to do 1 round of almost failure. We got to make sure that we don't actually mechanically fail or change our technique, because that's where we run the risk. But ultimately, we're just going for 1 slow burn. That's why you want something that's heavy enough that it's going to challenge you after, somewhere around 8 to 12 repetitions. And I mean challenge you. Remember, keep those elbows out in front of your body, right at the, see how mine's situated right at the front of my rib cage. So you're keeping a constant tension in the front of your arms. I'm starting to get to that last few reps, especially when I slowly control every portion of the movement. Really at the bottom is the hardest part to curl through. We'll go with a real slow lowering this time. Low, low, low on these last couple repetitions. Whenever your last couple are, you're going to do a really slow lowering. Really, really slow. Getting pretty hard. We're going for 80-90% of your maximum here as far as how much discomfort you can handle. It's going to be my last one. So I'm going to go real slow on the bottom movement here. Reaching the hands out in front. Oh boy. If at any time you're going to the point where you feel your back arching, or you're leaning back, or you're kipping and moving and cheating through that shoulder or through the rest of your foundation, it's too far. You got to go back to that controlled position. All right, moving on to the back side of the arms. This is a bit more of a challenging position, so I'm going to use the same weight, even though there's 3 tricep muscles. We're usually a little stronger in our triceps, but we're going to stagger our stance so that we have kind of this offset stance, called a 2-point static start stance. That's where we sprint. Then we're going to lean forward. That's what's going to give us that optimal angle when we roll our shoulders down and back. Notice that when I set up here, I'm not rolling my shoulders forward to pull my elbows high. That's what most people will do. They'll roll their shoulders forward. I'm puffing my sternum out, pinning my shoulder blades back. So this is a tricep kickback. We're going to do the same methodology, as many as we can, until we really start to feel that fatigue or mechanical failure. Push it back behind us. And if you can, you want to do either the hammer grip like I am, or even better is the palm back. So I'm going to go from a hammer grip to palm back, because I've got these big dumbbells, kind of awkward positioning as I come back to my side load. You see I'm shaking and trembling. This one's hard. You have a lot of shoulder muscles that have to support you here. You have your posterior core or posterior core, the back and your hips. Everything in this slightly bent over position is being challenged more. Again, I got to slow down on that bend of my elbow. We don't want to let our head hang. We're trying to keep our spine in a nice straight angle best that we can. For me, I'm getting to the end here. So I'm going to really slow down the bend of my elbow. And what's happening for me is I'm getting more shoulder work in this exercise. I got a break than I am tricep. Now I'm getting triceps there, but because my shoulders in this position are being challenged to maintain stability, these smaller muscle groups like your rotator cuff and some of your muscles in your shoulders feel that one a lot. For me, I probably didn't hit nearly as much failure on my triceps as I had on the bicep set. Moving on to the stretching exercises. We're going to go right to those same muscle groups, but we're going to incorporate our shoulder, entire shoulder. So you're going to want to find a wall. You're going to take your palm against the wall. Kind of hard to see there. So basically, fingers back, palm against the wall. Pretty much try to get your heel of your palm, backside of your palm, to the wall. I'm not that flexible. I got to move in front of you here. So I'm basically planting that heel of the palm, getting the whole palm down. So essentially, we're going to get a forearm, wrist flexor, forearm, bicep, elbow, and chest stretch all in one here. So really it's the front side of your shoulder, bicep, and palm. Go ahead and lean into that lightly. You don't need to do this a lot. It really needs to be very light. If I were to show you from a different angle, my shoulder blade is down and then back. As I'm leaning in, I'm pinning that shoulder blade into a strong position. I'm not rolling into that stretch. It's different. Okay, we can probably switch sides now. Reality is we should do about 2 rounds of 30 seconds for a static stretching minimum. 2 rounds. You know, anything more than what you're currently doing is the real baseline, and you'll see you know, some benefit from it. But we really need to hold these static stretches for up to a minute for 2 rounds if we're going to get any kind of significant progression. Let's go back to the first one more time. Leaning into it, got a bad angle on this one. Let me show you from an angle over here for round 2. So over here I'm going to plant that heel of my wrist or palm, and then I'm going to roll that shoulder blade down and back and rotate the sternum around. So that one, from this angle, it's a better angle for me, and I get my palm down. As soon as I get that palm down, I can feel that front line, and it's just a moderate stretch. Again, these are stretching out all your soft tissues, which include nerves and things too, so there'll be maybe some tingling. You don't want to push that to the point of discomfort. You won't get a good stretch if you're in pain. This side, I'm going to have to go back to this wall. Last one on this side for the biceps. Hopefully these videos aren't too long. You know, we'll start working on different versions of these if we need to. But ultimately, just the kickbacks and the bicep curls, doing that 2 times a week if you can, is really going to make a big difference in your lean body mass. It can make a difference in your metabolism. It can make a difference in your hormonal health, and everything that comes from that, which is all your emotional, mental health as well. Let's go to the triceps. Last stretch, our tricep stretch. This one's a little bit harder to feel, to get into, unless you're familiar with it. If you have any shoulder health history, which I know some of us do, you're going to have to kind of take this one step at a time. You don't need to overdo it, and you definitely don't want to feel pinching or pain in your shoulder complex. That's your collarbone, your shoulder blade, and where they all come together is right up here, and with the ball and socket, right above the ball and socket, and in that ball and socket of your upper arm. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to reach either to our neck, right behind the head, the neck, or if you can, onto the shoulder. So the shoulder would be best case scenario. It might not happen. It may be neck. Either way, we're going to elevate now so the hand then shifts back behind you. So it's just that common tricep stretch. It doesn't have to be intense. Again, you may not get as much in your tricep as you do in the underarm here, as you do in the upper back. Whatever, doesn't matter. We're still lengthening the tricep in this deep elbow flexion and starting to elicit shoulder flexion. That's the 2 movements that are opposite of the responsibilities of that tricep. So we're holding that stretch still. You got a rough count in my head of about 30 seconds. Don't put a clock on it. They call it trainer time. All right, let's switch, shake that loose. This one's tough because it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort to support the tricep. There's much easier stretches for the tricep. You can use door anchors and bands and things like that. You could even use the wall. I could turn around and do this, leaning into the wall, and I'd be much more comfortable in not having to work as much in my shoulders. Much more comfortable. Let's do it again. Last time on this side. In irregular human biomechanics, you need to stretch these triceps probably twice as much as your biceps. Our triceps are really one of the main limiting factors in overhead mobility, and overhead shoulder mobility is one of the highest risk factors for shoulder discomfort, shoulder and neck discomfort and pain or injury. It's also good to breathe during these. So while I'm just chatting away, you can focus on during your stretching. Big breaths in and big breaths out. Same thing, last side, last round. So I'm letting that hand come either to the neck. I'm trying to keep my elbow pretty relatively out in front. It's just going to depend on your shoulder health. If you've got shoulder health history, you may actually need to finagle around in a different position. And that's okay. Ideally, we want to start to get that in direct angle forward, but that is a little bit more advanced. Some folks may need to be back behind. Hold it for another 5 to 10 seconds. Breathe deep a couple times. And remember, it does not have to be a big, big stretch. Just a mild stretch if you can. Over the weeks, I may encourage that we do a little bit more using leverage to do that. Or other exercises. Great job.